Pisces, close the door. Not because anything is wrong, but because what I am about to share with you deserves your whole attention. And certain truths only surface when the room goes quiet and the rest of the world stops leaning over your shoulder. You did the right thing, coming to this alone. There are messages that lose their shape when other people are present, that need privacy the way a photograph once needed darkness to develop into an image. This is one of those messages. So let the house fall still around you. Let the noise of everyone else's opinions about your heart fade for a little while. It is just you and me and the quiet now. And the quiet has been waiting a long time for a moment private enough to finally speak. I am going to show you something today that has been kept out of your sight, not hidden cruelly, not withheld by any unkindness, simply positioned at an angle you could never quite see from where you have been standing. There is an entire side to your connection that lives out of view on the far end of the bond, inside the interior of another person's life. And because you cannot see it, you have been left to guess. You have filled the silence with your fears. You have read the absence of news as though the absence itself were the news. What I want to do, gently and slowly, is take those guesses out of your hands and set something truer in their place. The first thing I need you to know, before anything else, is that this person is real and this bond is real. I say this because somewhere in the long quiet, you began to wonder whether you imagined the whole thing, whether the closeness you felt was only ever felt by you, whether you built a cathedral out of what was, for them, a passing doorway. Set that fear down. What connected the two of you was not a projection. It registered on both ends. The moment that lives so vividly in your memory lives in theirs as well. Perhaps filed differently, perhaps guarded more tightly, but present, intact, unforgotten. You did not invent this. Two people were there, here, in the stillness of this reading with Spiritual Light Tarot. Let me tell you what the silence has actually been, because you have misread it, and the misreading has cost you more peace than the silence itself ever could. You interpreted their distance as indifference. You decided that if they truly felt something, they would have reached for you by now. That quiet must mean the door had closed. But absence and indifference are not the same country. A person can be utterly consumed by someone and say nothing at all. In fact, the feelings that run deepest are often the ones that go quietest, because they are the ones we are most afraid of getting wrong. The silence on their end was never emptiness. It was a full room with the lights off. Let me show you what happens inside them when your name crosses their mind, because it happens more than you would believe. There is a particular hour, usually late, usually when the day's demands have finally released them, when their thoughts drift, and when they drift toward you. Not as a decision, as a current they cannot fully steer. You are the thought they return to when they stop performing for everyone else. The face that surfaces in the unguarded moment between one task and sleep. They have tried to redirect it. They have told themselves to move on, to be reasonable, to let the thought of you fade the way ordinary memories are supposed to fade. It has not faded. That is the first thing they are quietly learning. That you are not a person they can think their way out of. Now I want to reveal something more tender. And I ask you to receive it without judgment, because judgment would close the very door we are trying to open. There is a wall on their side. It is real and it is high, and I will not pretend to you that it is not there. But I need you to understand what that wall is made of, because you have assumed it was made of rejection, and it is not. It is made of fear, specifically the fear of wanting something this much. Some people meet a connection so significant that instead of running toward it, they freeze because the size of the feeling frightens them more than the possibility of loss. Their wall is not a message that says stay away. It is a barricade they built against their own longing because their longing felt dangerous to them. You were never being kept out. They were trying and failing to keep something in. Something shifted for them recently. This is the next layer, and it is important. So stay with me. There was a moment not long ago when the careful management of their feelings stopped working. Perhaps something reminded them of you when they least expected it. Perhaps they saw a person who moved the way you move, or heard a phrase you used to say, or simply woke from a dream they could not quite hold on to but knew somehow was about you. Whatever the trigger, a crack ran through the composure they had worked so hard to maintain, and through that crack, everything they had been holding back began quietly to leak. They are no longer as settled in their distance as they were. The certainty that they could live without addressing this has begun to fail them. I want to name why this particular bond refuses to release either of you, because you have wondered whether the intensity is a flaw in you, some inability to move on that you should be ashamed of. It is not a flaw. Some connections are simply built on a deeper foundation than circumstance, and this is one of them. When two people recognize each other at a level beneath personality, beneath the surface details of timing and situation, the recognition does not obey the ordinary rules of forgetting. You can walk away from someone you merely liked. You cannot fully walk away from someone your soul filed under the category of home. That is what happened here. Something in you recognized something in them as familiar, as though you were remembering a person rather than meeting one, and recognition of that kind does not expire. There is a message forming in them, and I can feel its shape even though it has not yet been spoken. It is not a grand declaration, do not expect fireworks, because that is not who they are, and the truest things rarely announce themselves loudly. It is smaller and more honest than that. It is closer to an admission, a quiet confession that they have not been as free of you as they pretended, that the distance was a performance, that they have been carrying a question they were too afraid to ask. This message has been assembling itself in them slowly, the way courage assembles itself in a person who is not naturally brave about the heart. It is not finished yet, but it is being written. Let me turn the light now towards your side, because a reading like this can trap you into waiting, into staring at the door for a knock, and I do not want that for you. The convergence I sense is not something you accomplish by waiting harder. There is inner work being asked of you, and it is the most attractive work you could possibly do. It is the work of returning to yourself. Somewhere in the long stretch of this connection, you began to shrink, to make yourself smaller, more available, less demanding, as though you might earn their return by needing less space in the world. That shrinking is the one thing working against you. The version of you that first drew them was not the small waiting version. It was the whole, luminous, self-possessed version, the one who was busy being fully alive. Return to her. Return to him. That self is the magnet, not the diminished one. I want to correct a story you have been telling yourself about worthiness, because it sits underneath everything and quietly poisons the well. You have wondered in your lowest moments whether they pulled back because you were not enough, not interesting enough, not beautiful enough, not worthy of the effort. Hear me clearly. Their distance was never a verdict on your value. People do not retreat from those they consider beneath them. They retreat from those who reach a part of them they were not ready to have reached. You did not lose them by being too little. If anything, you unsettled them by being too much of exactly the thing they had stopped believing existed. Their hesitation is a measure of your impact, not your inadequacy. Here, as this reading with Spiritual Light Tarot moves toward its deeper center, I want to describe the space between the two of you, because it is not the empty void you imagine. You have pictured the distance as miles of nothing, a cold gap where your feelings echo and go unheard. But the space between two people bound this way is not empty. It is charged. It carries. When you soften toward them in your private hours, when you release resentment and wish them well from a genuine place, that softening does not vanish into the air. It travels the invisible line that connects you and arrives on their end as a lightness they cannot explain, a sudden thought of you that seems to come from nowhere. You are more in contact than you know. The line was never cut. It only went quiet. There is a fear they have about you specifically, and revealing it may finally explain a pattern that has confused you for a long time. They are afraid that they have waited too long, that by holding back, by staying silent, By letting the distance stretch, they have forfeited their chance, and that you have surely moved on to someone who was braver than they were. This fear feeds on itself. The longer they stay silent, the more certain they become that the silence has ruined everything, which makes them more afraid to break it, which lengthens the silence further. It is a knot they are tangled in. And knots like this rarely loosen from the inside. Often they require the other person you to send one small, warm, unmistakable signal that the door has not in fact closed. Let me speak about what that signal is, because I do not want you to mishear me and go chasing. This is not about pursuing them, not about long messages or dramatic gestures or laying your heart bare before they have offered you the same safety. The signal I mean is quieter and more powerful than any of that. It is the signal of a person at peace. When you stop performing your longing, when you stop leaking desperation, when you carry yourself as someone who would love to reconnect but does not need to in order to be whole, that is the signal that reaches them and disarms their fear. Wholeness is magnetic in a way that need never is. The most attractive thing you can broadcast into that charged space between you is not "I am waiting." It is "I am well, and there is room here for you if you are ready." I sense a specific memory the two of you share that has become sacred ground for them, though they would never admit it. There is a moment, the one, it is surfacing in your chest, even as I describe it, that they replay more than any other. It is not necessarily the biggest moment. Often it is something small and unrepeatable. A look held a beat too long. A laugh that arrived at the same instant. A silence that was somehow more intimate than any conversation. That moment became a kind of private evidence for them. A proof they return to whenever their doubt tells them the connection was not real. They guard it. They have not told anyone about it. It is theirs, and it is about you, and it has not lost a single degree of its warmth. You have been appearing in their sleep, and this is something they cannot control and would never confess. The waking mind can be disciplined. A person can forbid themselves from thinking of you during the day, and with enough effort, mostly succeed. But no one governs their dreams. And in that unguarded country, where the careful walls of the daytime dissolve, you keep returning. Sometimes they wake with the residue of you still clinging to them, a mood they cannot shake, a tenderness with no obvious source. They may not even remember the dream itself, only the feeling it left behind, a soft ache that follows them into the morning and colors the whole day before it fades. Their unconscious has not received the memo. Their pride keeps issuing. At night, they stop pretending, because at night they have no choice. There is something they kept, a small thing, the kind of object that would mean nothing to anyone else and everything to the two of you, a message they never deleted, though they told themselves they would. A photograph they did not throw away. Some ordinary token that most people would have discarded without a second thought, but which they have quietly held on to, moving it from place to place, never quite able to let it go. They do not look at it often, but they know exactly where it is. And the fact that it still exists, that they could not bring themselves to erase this one small proof of you, tells you more about the true state of their heart than any of their careful distance ever could. Watch how they behave when your name enters a room they are in, because the tell is unmistakable once you know to look for it. They do not react the way a person reacts to someone who no longer matters. An indifferent person is loose, easy, able to mention you casually and move on. This person is not loose. They go slightly still. They change the subject a beat too quickly. Or they grow suddenly very interested in something else. Or they say something clipped and neutral in a voice that is trying too hard to sound neutral. The people around them may not notice, but the effort it costs them to appear unaffected is precisely the evidence that they are affected. You cannot work that hard to seem unmoved by something that does not move you. There is a specific thing they wish they had said to you, and it has become a small, private ache they carry, a sentence left unspoken, a moment where the truth was right there, rising in their throat, and they swallowed it out of fear and let the moment pass. They have replayed that moment more than once, imagining the version of themselves who was braver, who said the thing, who did not let the silence win. That imagined braver self haunts them a little. And here is the grace hidden inside that regret. A person only mourns the words they did not say to someone who still matters. We do not grieve missed chances with people we have truly released. The regret is proof the door in them never fully closed. Do not be deceived by their composure, because their composure is the performance, not the truth. On the surface, they may appear entirely fine moving through their days, functioning, perhaps even seeming content or distant enough to convince a casual observer that they have moved on completely. But surface and depth are not the same water. Beneath the calm exterior, there is a great deal of unresolved feeling in motion, feeling they have become expert at hiding because hiding it is the only way they have found to function. The stiller the surface, the deeper the current often runs beneath it. Their calm is not the absence of feeling. It is feeling under enormous, careful management. Let me tell you what they genuinely admire in you, because you have never fully believed it, and it is time you did. There is a quality you possess, a way of being in the world, an openness, a warmth, a particular kind of courage about the heart that they do not have and secretly wish they did. You feel things fully, and you are not ashamed of feeling them. You reach when you care. You let yourself be known. To someone who has spent their life guarding, defending, holding back, that openness of yours is both magnetic and frightening. They were drawn to it because it is everything they long to be. And they retreated from it for the very same reason, because standing in the light of someone so unafraid to love made them painfully aware of their own walls. You did not intimidate them by being cold. You intimidated them by being brave. Now I want to reveal something about timing, without ever naming a season or a day, because the convergence has a rhythm and you deserve to understand it. What is between you does not move in a straight line. It moves in approaches and retreats, like something learning to trust the water. Each time they come a little closer than before, then pull back, but here is what you have missed in your discouragement. Each retreat stops a little short of where the last one did. The pattern is not a circle. It is a spiral, tightening inward. If you plotted their comings and goings honestly, you would see that the distance has been quietly shrinking the whole time, even in the moments that felt like setbacks. They are not stuck. They are spiraling closer, one cautious turn at a time. There is a version of the future I can feel gathering around this bond, and I want to describe it carefully, without inflating it into a fantasy, because you have been fed enough fantasies, and what you need now is something you can actually stand on. In this future, the conversation you have been aching for does happen. Not perfectly, not in the cinematic way you may have scripted it, but honestly, there is an unburdening. Things that were felt but never said get said. And what surprises you most when it comes is not the intensity of it, but the ease, the strange, quiet relief of two people finally stopping the performance and admitting what was always underneath. It will feel less like a beginning and more like a returning, as though you are picking up a thread you both set down, but neither of you ever truly let go of. I want to prepare you for the shape of their approach, so you recognize it and do not dismiss it. When they finally move towards you, it will likely be tentative, almost clumsy, disguised as something casual. A small reaching out that pretends to be about nothing in particular. Do not measure the size of their feeling by the smallness of that first gesture. For a person who has been this afraid, a small gesture is enormous. It is the maximum their courage can manage on the first attempt. If you meet that tentative reach with warmth instead of testing them, instead of making them pay for the silence, the second gesture will come more easily, and the one after that easier still. Grace at that moment will open more doors than pride ever could. Let me reveal the deepest layer now, the one underneath all the others, because you are ready for it. The reason this connection has been so difficult, so slow, so full of longing and distance is not that it is doomed. It is that it is significant. Easy connections do not require this much of us. The bonds that ask us to grow, to heal, to become more whole before we can hold them, those are the ones that matter most. And they rarely arrive smoothly. The difficulty was never a sign that you were on the wrong path. It was the friction of something real being forged. You have been in a process, not a failure. And the process has been shaping both of you into people finally capable of holding what you were not yet ready to hold when you first met. I want to speak to the loneliness you have carried in the meantime, because it deserves acknowledgement and not just reassurance. The waiting has been hard. There were nights you felt foolish for still caring, mornings you resolved to close your heart and give up, evenings that dissolved the moment their memory returned. You have been brave in a way no one has witnessed, the private, unglamorous bravery of continuing to keep your heart open when closing it would have hurt less. That bravery was not wasted, and it was not weakness. Keeping your heart soft through a long uncertainty is one of the hardest things a person can do. And you did it alone, without applause. It changed you. It made you more, not less. There is something they have come to understand about themselves through the distance from you, and it is the very thing that is now drawing them back. In your absence, they discovered that the alternatives do not satisfy. They may have tried to fill the space you left. They may have distracted themselves, sought company, told themselves that any connection would do. And in doing so, they learned slowly and unmistakably that not any connection will do, that what they had with you was not the ordinary thing they assumed everyone had, but something rarer, something they cannot find by simply looking elsewhere. That discovery is worth more than any words you could have said to them. Some truths a person can only learn by leaving and finding the door to everything lesser. Let me name the quality of the reunion I sense, because I do not want you picturing the wrong thing. It is not dramatic. It does not arrive with thunder or grand confessions in the rain. It is quieter and better than that. It arrives as a settling, as the peculiar piece of a thing clicking into the place it was always shaped for. You will not feel your world upending. You will feel something more like recognition, the deep exhale of at last, there you are. The truest reunions do not feel like an explosion. They feel like coming home to a room you had almost forgotten was yours, and finding it exactly as you left it, still warm, still waiting. I want to offer you a way to hold this connection in the space before it resolves, because how you carry it now shapes how it lands later. Hold it loosely. Not carelessly, loosely. The way you would hold something alive and free. The tighter you grip an outcome, the more you strangle the ease that lets it arrive. Trust that the bond is doing its work even when nothing visible is happening. Trust that the quiet is productive. Live your life fully in the meantime, not as a strategy to attract them back, but because a full life is your birthright regardless of them. And as a quiet side effect, because nothing calls a hesitant heart home faster than watching the person they love blooming without waiting for permission. There is a fear I need to address directly, because it may be circling you even now in this quiet room. The fear that I am telling you a comforting story simply because comfort is what you came for. So let me be honest about the difference between comfort and truth. I am not promising you that everything will unfold exactly as you wish, on your timeline, in your preferred shape. I do not have that power, and I would not insult you by pretending to. What I am telling you is what I genuinely sense, that the connection is real, that the feeling is mutual, that the distance is fear and not rejection, and that a movement toward reunion is underway. What you do with that, how you carry yourself, whether you meet their tentative courage with grace, those remain yours to decide. Truth hands you the map. It does not walk the road for you. There is a reason none of this could have happened sooner, and understanding it may finally release you from the guilt of the delay. Had the two of you come together earlier, before the growing, before the distance did its quiet work on both of you, it would not have held. One or both of you was not yet ready to receive a love this significant without fear swallowing it whole. The time apart was not punishment and it was not waste. It was preparation. It was the interval in which you each became a person capable of holding what you could not have held before. What felt like a cruel delay was, in truth, a mercy, the universe refusing to hand you something so important before your hands were steady enough to keep it. Understand that what they miss is not only the romance, and this distinction matters more than you might expect. Beneath the longing for closeness, beneath any desire, there is something simpler and more durable that they ache for: your presence, the particular ease of being around you. The way the world felt a little more bearable, a little more like home when you were in it. They miss talking to you. They miss the specific texture of your attention, the sense of being truly seen that they have not found in your absence and are beginning to fear they will not find anywhere else. Romance can flare and fade, but this, the missing of a person's whole presence, is the deeper hook, and it is set firmly in them. Now, the light shifts, and I want to speak to what is being illuminated, because a hidden thing is being drawn up into view. For a long time, the truth of this connection lived in shadow, felt but unseen, real but unconfirmed, the kind of thing you could not point to as proof. That is changing. What was concealed is coming into the light, in them, in you, and in the space between. Feelings that were buried are surfacing where they can finally be seen and named. The full truth of what you are to each other is rising toward the light like something long submerged that has finally decided to break the surface. Do not fear the exposure. Some things can only be resolved once they are brought into the open, and what is being brought into the open here is not a wound. It is a bond, ready at last to be acknowledged. You will begin to notice small signs, and I want you to trust them rather than dismiss them as coincidence. A phrase tied to them appearing where you least expect it. A song surfacing at the exact moment your thoughts turn their way. A recurring image. A sequence you keep catching. An unexpected reminder of them woven into an ordinary day. Your intuition, which has been more accurate throughout all of this than you have given it credit for, will start pinging with a quiet certainty that something is stirring. Do not talk yourself out of these signs the way you have talked yourself out of so much. They are not your imagination grasping at hope. They are the visible ripples of an invisible movement, the small confirmations that the current between you has begun again to flow. There is something you are holding that I must gently ask you to set down, because it is the one thing on your side that could slow all of this. You have been carrying a quiet resentment, understandable, earned, entirely human, for the way they left you in uncertainty, for the silence, for the hurt of loving someone who would not meet you in the open. That resentment protected you for a while, and I honor it. But it has become a closed hand, and a closed hand cannot receive. I am not asking you to pretend the hurt did not happen. I am asking you to release the grip of it, to forgive not for their sake, but for your own freedom, so that when the door opens, you are not standing behind it with your arms crossed. Let the resentment go, and watch how much lighter the space between you becomes. Trust your own knowing through all of this, because your intuition has been right far more often than your fear has allowed you to admit. Every time your gut told you this connection was real, it was telling you the truth. Every time you sensed there was more beneath their distance than they were showing, you were sensing accurately. You have doubted yourself, called yourself foolish, wondered if you were simply seeing what you wanted to see. You were not. The part of you that refused to fully let go, even when logic told you to, was not delusion. It was recognition, the deep, quiet knowing of a soul that had identified something true and would not be talked out of it. That knowing has been your compass all along. Start trusting it again. As we near the end of our time together in this quiet, private space, I want to give you the single most important thing to carry out of this room. It is this. You are not too much. You have not waited in vain, and you did not imagine what was real. Those 3 lies have been the heaviest stones in your pocket, and I want you to set them down here on the floor of this room and leave them behind when you go. Whatever unfolds between you and this person, you deserve to walk forward without those weights. You are lovable exactly as you are. You always were. The distance never changed that, and it never could. There has been a complicating circumstance around this bond, something external that made the timing difficult and gave their fear a place to hide. It may have been a situation neither of you fully controlled, a set of conditions that made reaching for each other feel impossible or unwise. I do not sense this as a permanent obstacle, and I do not sense it as a rival to your place in their heart. I sense it as whether a difficult season of circumstances that is already beginning to pass. As it clears, the excuse their fear has been leaning on clears with it. And when the external reason for the distance dissolves, they will be left face to face with the only thing that was ever truly keeping them away, their own hesitation. That is a far easier obstacle to overcome, and they are closer to overcoming it than you think. I want you to know that they have been doing their own quiet growing in this time, even if you cannot see it, because reunion asks something of both people, and they have not been idle. In the space away from you, they have been forced to sit with themselves, to notice their own patterns, to reckon with the part of them that runs from what it wants most. That reckoning is uncomfortable, and it is slow, and it does not announce itself, but it is real. A person does not become ready to receive a significant love by staying exactly as they were when their fear first won. They become ready by changing, and change happens in private, out of view, in the unglamorous inner rooms no one else gets to see. Some of the silence you took as their absence was actually the sound of them becoming someone finally capable of showing up. If you take nothing else from your time with Spiritual Light Tarot tonight, take this quiet certainty into the days ahead. Love that is real does not require you to chase it down and force it into being. It requires you to become fully yourself, to keep your heart open without keeping it desperate, and to trust the invisible line that connects you to the person your soul recognized. That line is intact. That recognition is mutual. And the door you came into this room to close behind you is in truth a door that is slowly, carefully, quietly opening on the other side of everything you can see. And when the reconnection comes, give yourself permission to let it be imperfect. You do not need to have every feeling resolved, every word rehearsed, every uncertainty ironed flat before you allow this bond to breathe again. Real love is not a performance that must be flawless to count. It is 2 imperfect people choosing, awkwardly and honestly, to stop hiding from each other. Let the first steps be clumsy. Let there be pauses and half sentences and things that come out wrong. What matters is not the polish of the reunion, but the truth underneath it. And the truth underneath it is that you were always meant to find your way back to one another. So step back out into your life now, softer than you came in. Carry the truth instead of the guesses. When your fear tells you it was one-sided, remember the full room with the lights off. When it tells you the silence meant goodbye, remember the spiral tightening inward. When it tells you that you waited too long, remember that they are afraid of exactly the same thing, and that all it may take is one warm, unhurried signal that the door has not closed. You are not waiting on an empty horizon. You are standing at the near end of a bond that is, even now, in this very quiet, being drawn back toward you, one cautious, spiraling, unmistakable turn at a time. Rest in that, and let yourself finally believe it.